Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you know when live we go. Dear students, Rao's IAS Prelims Test Series 2021 is a complete testing and revision course for the upcoming prelims examination. The program will help you prepare for UPSC prelims through a step-up approach. It is a meticulously designed study plan to organize your preparation and keep you on track towards covering the prelims GS and CSAT syllabus extensively from NCERT to the advanced level. The goal of our Prelims Test Series 2021 program is to exhaustively cover all standard sources of study material, including NCERT, with a study plan to test you at par with UPSC level of questions, thereby improving your chances of clearing the prelims examination. To give multiple revision of the entire syllabus from the perspective of civil service prelims pattern. The test series program will also give you the final revision of all topics and themes before the examination through QIP videos and prelims compass notes. The QIP videos or Quality Improvement Program videos are for speedy revision of all important topics for the upcoming prelims examination. QIP videos are kind of crash course for the prelims examination. And prelims compass are 8 subject-wise prelims compilation of all static and current affair topics important for the upcoming prelims. Rao's IAS Prelims Test Series 2021 will include topics test, testing the concept of candidate. It will include thematic test on both the concept and the current affair of that particular theme. It will also include current affair tests covering the monthly current affairs. And there will be full-length test before the final exam to simulate you for the D-Day. There is a link in the description of this video. You can click on the link for registration and to also check out the demo QIP videos. We are going to take up discussion on today's newspaper, The Hindu, Delhi edition dated 18th November 2020. We are going to take up important articles for the civil service examination and discuss them as per the requirement of the exam. The articles that we are going to take up for discussion has been tabulated in front of you, and the timestamping for the same has been given in the description section. This is an interview article from page number 10. It has been titled, RCEP is not just a trading arrangement. Leaving it is a short-sighted move. It is a myopic move. This interview is of Mr. Shyam Saran, former Foreign Secretary of India. Mr. Shyam Saran is of the opinion that RCEP is not just a trading arrangement. It has deep strategic stake as well. So leaving it just on economic ground was a short-sighted diplomatic move. In our discussion, first we will see what is RCEP, why India on economic ground did not join RCEP, and then we will come to what this interview article is highlighting as to what are the strategic stake in RCEP, and we should not be looking at it just from the prism of trading arrangement. Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, it's a free trade agreement. Free trade agreement among 15 countries. 10 countries are of ASEAN and 5 countries are those 5 countries with which ASEAN already had free trade agreement. ASEAN had free trade agreement with Australia, China, Japan, South Korea and New Zealand. So ASEAN as a bloc had free trade agreement with these 5 countries, but these 5 countries did not have free trade agreement among themselves. Now all of them will have free trade agreement with other countries. So it is going to be a big economic bloc. These 5 member countries account for 30% of world population and around 30% of global GDP. And that will make RCEP world's biggest trade bloc in history. The RCEP agreement after marathon negotiation has been signed on 15th of November. And as per the agreement, the countries will eliminate about 90% of tariff on imports within next 20 years. And apart from that, the countries will also establish common rules for e-commerce, trade, and intellectual property rights. The significance of RCEP goes even further because it is for the first time that major economies of Asia like China, Japan, South Korea, they have come together under a free trade agreement. But there are further deeper strategic stake in RCEP. RCEP is positioned to pull the center of gravity of global economy towards Asia. And it is also predicted that RCEP will further amplify the decline of United States both in terms of economic powerhouse and the political hegemony. For the prelims examination, you must also be aware of the fact that RCEP is not a closed exclusive group of East Asian and Southeast Asian countries. Other countries from Central Asia or Asia Pacific can join RCEP, but 18 months after it has come into force. Now let's come to the challenges that India saw in joining RCEP, and based on the evaluation of those challenges, India decided finally to not enter into the agreement of RCEP. First of all, you must know that India has a total trade deficit of whopping $83 billion with the RCEP bloc. Meaning the 15 countries that has got into RCEP agreement, India has $83 billion of trade deficit combined with those 15 countries. Out of these $83 billion of deficit, $60 billion alone comes from China. And China is there in RCEP very prominently. India getting into RCEP will automatically mean that India has a free trade agreement with China. Without free trade agreement, there is a trade deficit of $60 billion. And with free trade agreement, you can only imagine the scale of trade deficit. And you must see this in the context of present trade war of China with US. China is running with overcapacity. China is looking for new market because a big market of US is very constricted right now. So free trade agreement with China will be more lethal at this point in time. The threat is not only of industrial goods coming from China, the threat is also in the agriculture sector because the dairy sector of New Zealand and Australia are very advanced. An import from these mechanized agricultural sector of New Zealand and Australia will affect our agriculture sector. Then there would be issue of IPR because pressure from Japan is always there on various industries, especially pharmaceutical industry of India. Overall, the bilateral free trade agreements that India had with many countries like Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Thailand, Singapore, Bhutan, Nepal, South Korea, Malaysia and Japan, those have not been very fruitful. Many financial bodies have done the evaluation of the free trade agreements of India with many countries, but we will take up the evaluation done by Economic Survey 2015-16. Although Economic Survey highlights the disadvantages from these free trade agreements, but Economic Survey does not write it off. Economic Survey do agree that these free trade agreements have brought some benefit to the nation. For example, trade has increased with the nations with whom we have free trade agreements. Economic Survey highlighted that in the preceding 4 years, trade with ASEAN increased by 50%. Trade has increased, so has investment. Investment coming from ASEAN also increased by 12.5%. There also has been diversification of trade. India now is trading in more variety of goods. There is also one very important economic plus strategic point that there has been expansion in trading relations. For example, there was a commitment from Japan to assist Indian pharmaceutical companies through the regulatory and registration process required as per the rules in Japan, so that the Indian pharma products which are competitively priced can have access to the market of Japan. This kind of trading relation was developed with many countries, and this was the result of free trade agreement. But at the same time, we have to concede that though the trade has increased, but import has increased more than export, leading to trade deficit. With ASEAN, we have $10 billion of deficit. There is also trade deficit with Japan and South Korea. Economic survey also highlighted that the export to free trade agreement is comparable to export to those countries with whom we do not have any such agreements. Only in case of Sri Lanka, export has increased more than import. Otherwise, with all other countries with whom we have free trade agreement, import has increased more than export. All these means that the free trade agreement utilization is very low. Asian Development Bank has estimated that India has utilized only 5 to 25% of bilateral free trade agreements, meaning India could attain only 5 to 25% increase in the expected growth of exports because of FTAs. There are many reasons why FTA utilization is very low. One reason right now is in front of your screen. What we did with Japan, we could not do with other countries. Indian companies could not cope very well with the regulatory mechanism, the regulatory standards of other countries. And no substantial effort was made to overcome that. But even if we look purely from economic perspective, there are many opportunities in free trade agreements. We already saw that India has seen trade diversification and increase in trade, although import has increased more than export, but the overall volume of trade has increased. Not only trade, investment has also increased. FDI coming from ASEAN and other countries has increased because of free trade agreements. If you look beyond trade and investment, India got more integrated into global value chains. This is extremely important in the present context because we were thinking that post-COVID era, industries will shore off from China. But in that case, the chances of those countries coming to India will be very minimal if India is not very well integrated in the global supply chain. India is at the cusp of becoming regional economy and a global economy. And for that, it is imperative that India gets its economy integrated very well with the global economy through global value chains. But the advantage of this is not very well quantified. You have trade numbers, you have investment numbers, but the benefit that integration into global value chains brings, that is not very easily quantifiable. But that is indeed an economic benefit that India would get by bilateral trade agreements and also by getting into RCEP. When we have more number of FTAs or when we get into a larger block like RCEP, then the compliance with the rules and regulations and regulatory mechanisms will become more. The experience will become richer. And that will lead to greater overall FTA utilization, which is very low presently for India. Once we have FTA in goods, then we can have a leverage to get into FTA in services. India's service sector is very strong. The problem is in the present negotiation in RCEP, services was not involved. And that was one of the biting point in the negotiation. India wanted the countries to bring service on the negotiation table as well. But other partner countries were not very keen for negotiating in service in the first phase. India wanted that to happen in the first phase itself. The deadlock could not break and India finally decided to not get involved in RCEP. But FTA in service can be seen as a future opportunity once we have an FTA for goods. Now let us come to the strategic dimension over and above the economic benefit that RCEP may bring for India. And the decision to join RCEP or not join RCEP must be seen cumulatively when the economic and the strategic benefit are added together. First of all, India has Act East policy as one of the pillars in the foreign policy. When Act East policy is very important in India's geo-strategy, India must get involved in any bloc, any grouping in which important East Asian countries are involved, like Japan, South Korea, and also important Southeast Asian countries like Malaysia, Singapore. But somehow India seems to be receding away from this foreign policy. It can be seen, one, from not joining RCEP. Additionally, in the last East Asia summit, India did not send head of the government for the summit. India was represented by the External Affairs Minister. But except for India and US, rest of the countries gave representation by head of the government or the head of the state. And when the foreign ministers meeting for East Asia Summit happened, then India sent Minister of State for representation rather than External Affairs Minister. See, East Asia Summit is something very important for India. India aspired for it, fought for it and got the membership. It didn't come very easy. When India could not get the membership of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, then in order to keep strong footing in the region, in the East Asia, India sought the membership of East Asia Summit. This was in congruence with India's Act East policy. In 2015 prelims, UPSC asked this question: India is a member of which of the following? Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, East Asia Summit. It's easy to say that India is not member of ASEAN, and since India did not get the membership of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, so India took the membership of East Asia Summit. So India is not member of APEC and India is not member of ASEAN. The answer was option B. So if India is not going to become member of RCEP, naturally the ties with East Asian and Southeast Asian countries will erode, and that will hamper India's overall geostrategy. Then there is a question of increasing influence of China. China has got into RCEP. It was speculated that many industries, many companies will move out of China to countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, India in the post-COVID era. And that is happening to a certain extent. But since China has got into free trade agreement with these countries, Vietnam and Indonesia included in RCEP, so the economy is already well integrated in the region. So the temptation to leave China and go to other country will be neutralized to a certain extent. So China in this way and in many other way will benefit by getting into RCEP. Apart from that, if you see the recent development in United States with the change in government, there could be a situation in the global trade where a kind of symmetry could be seen. On one side, there would be RCEP, China being part of that biggest trading bloc. And on the other side, there is a chance of revival of Trans-Pacific Partnership. And that can become another important trading bloc with US at the center. So on one hand, we will have RCEP, there would be China, US out of it. On the other hand, we may have TPP with US at the center and China out of it. See, the trading agreement for TPP was signed in 2016. It included Canada, United States, Mexico, Peru, Chile, and on this side of the ocean, we had Japan, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Brunei, Australia, and New Zealand. And these 6 countries are there presently in RCEP as well. But TPP was cancelled in 2017 by the administration of President Donald Trump. So TPP was never ratified. With new administration taking hold on US, TPP might be revived. But RCEP already has been signed and India is out of RCEP. China is the biggest economy in RCEP. So China may lead the biggest trading bloc in the world. And even if TPP is revived, then China may challenge US because many countries are already involved in RCEP. Whereas India is not there in the equation. And the article very coldly puts that India will be left out in the cold. So by not engaging in RCEP, India may inadvertently further strengthen the position of China. Then there could have been many other strategic advantages if India did join RCEP. For example, strategic infrastructure development like ports. India is developing a port, the port of Sabang in Philippines. With free trade agreement, the trade between Philippines and India would have been even more. And such kind of ties and collaboration for developing strategic infrastructure would be even more strong. India could negotiate at international forum like WTO as a bloc if part of RCEP. Then there are immense other benefits. For example, more closer cooperation in dealing with black money, terrorism. Closer ties would also lead to easy extradition and signing of extradition treaty with countries with whom we do not have yet. And there are other things that you may think of. For example, For example, India is cooperating very closely with Japan and Australia under Quad. But Japan and Australia are there in RCEP, India is not. So India will be missing out in the cohesiveness of a strategic relation and the economic relation with these two countries. But almost all countries of RCEP have shown their positivity that India will join the group in future. And there is a feeling that India can act as a countervailing country to counter China. So the door is still open. We still have to weigh the advantages and disadvantages of joining RCEP. The call of the article is that advantages must account also for the strategic advantage over and above the economic advantage. This is an editorial article from page number 6, Fragile Ceasefire. The article has been written in the context of ceasefire or the peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. You know that the 6-week-long war in which thousands of people died between Armenia and Azerbaijan has come to an end by the signing of peace treaty brokered by Russia. The war was over a landlocked region between Armenia and Azerbaijan called as Nagorno-Karabakh. Although the war has ended, maybe temporarily for 10 years or so, but it has changed the power dynamics in the region. Although India is not directly involved in the conflict, but still it is important for UPSC civil service examination because in the prelims exam, UPSC has asked questions like this. For instance, in 2014, they asked to match the region which are often in news with country they are in. They gave the pairing Chechnya with Russian Federation, which was correct, and they gave the pairing Darfur with Mali. But Darfur is a famous region in Sudan, which was very often in news because of conflict going on in that region. Swat Valley was matched with Iraq. If you remember, Swat Valley is the region where Malala Yousafzai was shot. It is in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region of Pakistan. So pairing 2 and 3 was incorrectly matched. The answer was option A. Secondly, these kind of conflicts are extremely important for interview. Thirdly, you can use it to comment on the present global order in the mains answers. So you have to be aware as to what is happening in this part of the world. The genesis of the conflict and the regions in which the conflict is spread was elaborately discussed by our illustrious web officer in the DNS of 30th September 2020. So we will not be discussing that aspect of the conflict again. Now since the conflict has ended, so we will take stock of the power balance in the region. Although the war was between Armenia and Azerbaijan, but the major power blocks were also involved, like Turkey, like Iran, and very prominently Russia. Turkey was supporting Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan has come out as victorious in the war, and Azerbaijan, as per the peace treaty, will be controlling the Nagorno-Karabakh region. And since Turkey supported Azerbaijan, so Turkey's influence in the strategically very important South Caucasus region has increased. This region of Georgia, Armenia and Azerbaijan is referred to as South Caucasus region. Caucasus meaning between the two lands. This region is between Europe and Asia, and historically this region has been the area for asserting power by the regional powers. It has been the area of conflict between Europe and Russia. It also has been the area where regional powers like Turkey and Iran assert themselves. After the disintegration of Soviet Union, these regions came under the influence of Russia. Russia always considered this region as its backyard. But now Turkey is showing influence in the region because Turkey's supported Azerbaijan has defeated Russian-supported Armenia. In the 6-week-long war, Turkey also got the opportunity to show its military prowess. It was reported that Azerbaijani military was not only given supply, training and financial support, but it was also given drones. The Turkey's military strategists were also helping Azerbaijan in making the war strategy. It was also reported, although Ankara has denied it, that some of the military personnel flew the drone for Azerbaijan. It would also imply that Turkey may become more assertive in the Mediterranean, where Turkey is having conflict with Greece. So one outcome of the war is assertive Turkey. The other outcome is cautious Russia. Russia, although could not ensure victory for Armenia, but it has saved its face by brokering the peace deal, and Russia is the only signatory in the peace deal apart from the two warring states Azerbaijan and Armenia. Turkey is not the signatory in the peace deal. As per the deal, Russian troops will be only peacekeepers for monitoring the implementation of agreement. Although Turkey also has asserted that it will be sending observer to the region, but there will be no soldiers on foot. Russian border and customs services will control and operate the newly created route that will connect Azerbaijan with its enclave of Nakhichevan. In the map, if you see, here we have Azerbaijan, this region is of Armenia, and here there is enclave of Azerbaijan, Nakhichevan. This is the Nagorno-Karabakh region. So the corridor connecting Nakhichevan with Azerbaijan will obviously pass through Armenia, and that will be monitored and operated by Russian forces. Armenia through treaty was an ally of Russia, and Russia had to support Armenia as per the agreement in case of war. But Russia took a neutral stand and did not get involved in war directly, not even as much as Turkey was involved. Russia was very cautious. There are many reasons for that. First of all, Turkey is a member of NATO. And if Russia gets involved directly, then there was chance of US getting involved in the region as well. And Russia would not want that. Russia would not want US entry in its backyard. Additionally, the economy of Azerbaijan is very strong compared to the economy of Armenia. The economy of Azerbaijan is 3 times stronger than Armenia, because Azerbaijan has a rich resource of hydrocarbon. If you look in the map, here is Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan has border with Caspian Sea, but Armenia does not. And that is why the resources of Caspian Sea is not available to Armenia. But Azerbaijan can tap that resource, and its economy has been fueled by extraction and selling of petrochemicals. In fact, all the countries bordering Caspian Sea like Iran, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Russia, they all are resource rich. If you remember, the Tapi gas pipeline is coming from Turkmenistan because it borders with Caspian Sea. So chances of Armenia against Azerbaijan was very bleak. Thirdly, you remember what happened to US? US came in Afghanistan, tried fighting Taliban, and what happened? War went on and on. Getting involved in regional warfare and pulling out is not an easy thing. And perhaps because of episode of US in Afghanistan, Russia was very cautious. Now, what's there for India in all these things? India has no direct stake in the region, but India has a stake as an emerging global superpower. India has always talked about rule-based global order. And if you look at these things, all these are violation of rule-based global order. What US did in Afghanistan, what happened in Russia, what is happening in many African countries, and how Turkey directly got involved in war between Armenia and Azerbaijan is violation of rule-based global order. The same China is doing in the South China region, also at the border of India and China. So in that context, you can use the learning you had through this article that it does not bode well with any existing or emerging global superpower like India is. There is an article on page number 7, Constitutional Fault Lines. This article has been written in the context of inordinate delays in the working of constitutional functionaries like Governor and Speaker of the Lok Sabha. It has been observed that Speaker, while deciding on the matter of anti-defection, and Governor, while deciding on the matter of clemency, show inordinate delay, take very long in making the decision. Speaker of the Lok Sabha under the 10th schedule has the power to decide on anti-defection, and Governor under the Article 161 has the power to decide on clemency plea. Similarly, President under the Article 72 has the power to pardon. Specifically, the article has been written in the context of Governor of Tamil Nadu of withholding his decision on the application seeking pardon. This application has been filed by one of the convict in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. The thing is that in 2018, Supreme Court observed that while hearing a connected writ petition, the governor should take a decision. The writ petition connected to the question of clemency, the question of pardon. Supreme Court observed that the governor should take a decision. He should not withhold his decision. Then subsequently, the Tamil Nadu Council of Ministers passed a resolution in favor of releasing all 7 prisoners. According to the author, the matter was then rendered fait accompli, meaning it was a done deal for the governor. Since the resolution was passed by the Council of Ministers, the governor had no option but to pass the order under his seal. But since the governor is not taking decision, he is withholding his decision, so this is giving rise to constitutional fault lines within the executive arm of the government. Governor is doing something which Supreme Court has said he is not supposed to. And Supreme Court is the final interpreter of the constitution. So that implies that governor is going against the constitutional mandate that is bound to create constitutional fault lines. The article has mentioned some judgments, and those are nuggets of information that you have to pick, memorize, internalize and use in answers. Article mentions the case of Maruram versus Union of India of 1981. In this case, Supreme Court said that the pardoning power under Article 72 for the President and under Article 161 for the Governor can be exercised by the central and the state governments and not by the President or Governor on their own. The majority judgment written by Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer said that the advice of the appropriate government binds the head of the state. So if a decision has been taken by the Council of Ministers, then that is fait accompli, meaning it's a done deal for the President or the Governor. Based on the judgment, the author now comments that a governor is neither expected nor is empowered to test the constitutionality of the order or resolution presented to her. The question is, what are you doing when you are withholding the decision? Because you are not supposed to apply your mind or test the constitutionality of the resolution passed by the Council of Ministers. That power is exclusively reserved for the constitutional courts, the Supreme Court and the High Court. So now through the judgment of Maruram versus Union of India, you know that the President or the Governor, while exercising the pardoning power, is bound by the decision taken by the Council of Ministers. So he has no option but to pass the order as decided by the Council of Ministers, and he must take decision. He cannot delay that decision. Where do we know it from? We know it from Shatrughan Chauhan versus Union of India judgment. In this judgment, Supreme Court laid down the principle of presumption of dehumanizing effect of the delay. When there is delay in deciding the pardoning of convict for death sentences, they die 1,000 deaths. Every morning they'll wake up, they wouldn't know whether they will be hanged today or not. When there is delay in decision, you do not know when the governor or president will pass the decision and which day will be decided for you to die. So every morning you will think, today you could die, today you could die, today you could die. You don't know when you will die. And that is dehumanizing. And Supreme Court connected this with Article 21. Supreme Court confirmed that the due process guaranteed under Article 21 was available to each and every prisoner till his last breath. If that is available to the prisoner, to the convict, then this dehumanizing effect goes against Article 21. Immediately, Article 32 will get triggered. The right to constitutional remedy. And Article 32 petitions can be accepted by the Supreme Court. And this is how the power that was given to the President or the Governor can be taken by Supreme Court via Article 32 by connecting the issue to Article 21. And this is how essentially Supreme Court can interfere with the matter of inordinate delay. So you learn a lot of things here. You learn that the governor in the matter of pardoning is bound by the decision of Council of Ministers, You learned that the governor has to take decision because this is a question of due process under Article 21. You cannot be sitting on the decision. And you also learned that the power to commute the death sentence or to interfere in the matter of inordinate delay, that has been taken up by Supreme Court as well. That's about governor. Now let's talk about the issue of inordinate delay or the speaker's inaction. In the legal jurisprudence, it was long believed that the powers of the speaker, who is holding a constitutional office and exercising powers guaranteed by the Constitution, were beyond the scope of writ of mandamus. Through writ of mandamus, the courts can give orders to government, any public authority, any constitutional office bearer, or even to lower courts. Supreme Court in Rajendra Singh Rana versus Swami Prasad Maurya case has said that failure on the part of speaker to decide the application seeking a disqualification cannot be said to be merely in the realm of procedure. Because when it comes to the decision of disqualification under the 10th schedule under the anti-defection law, the procedure followed by the speaker will not be cautioned by the court. That is why the court is saying that the inordinate delay cannot be said to be merely in the realm of procedure. It goes against the very constitutional scheme of adjudication contemplated by the 10th schedule. Delay goes against the scheme of adjudication, which is a matter of justice. Finally, in the Kesham Megha Chandra Singh case, Supreme Court issued a judicial direction to the speaker to decide the disqualification petition within a period of 4 weeks. So the matter of taking decision by the governor in the matter of pardon and the decision taken by the speaker in the matter of disqualification under anti-defection law has to be taken on time, and you have the relevant judgment in your hand to justify that. That's all you have to learn from this article. There is an article on page number 2 with the title, "Find out what happened to missing circus animals during inspection." See, Delhi High Court has asked Animal Welfare Board of India and Central Zoo Authority to find out what happened to circus animals that were missing during inspection that was carried out by Animal Welfare Board of India and Central Zoo Authority. The inspection was carried out across the country, and out of total 740 animals that were registered with Animal Welfare Board of India, information was available only for 28. Actually, the court was hearing a petition filed by Federation of Indian Animals Protection Organization and PETA India, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, India Division. The petition was filed in the context of data released by Animal Welfare Board of India regarding its recent inspection, and it gave data only for 28 animals. Also, in the context of lockdown on account of COVID-19, circuses are finding it difficult to feed animals, and many animals are starving. From the exam perspective, you have to understand the legal and constitutional argument that was given by these two bodies, Federation for Indian Animal Protection Organization and People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. In the Delhi High Court, they have challenged Performing Animal Rules 1973 and Performing Animal Registration Rules 2001 because these rules allow registration of animals as performing animals for circuses. But the argument is registration of animals as performing animals under these rules is in violation of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960 and also in general with the Constitution of India, because under Article 21 in the Nagraj judgment it was recognized that animals also have right to life. Also in circuses, use of weapons and other abuse to animals is inherent, sometimes also rampant and widespread. It was argued in the court that animals in circuses are forced to perform confusing, uncomfortable and even painful tricks. And these things goes against the legislation of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960. So the plea is to strike down these rules that allows animals to be registered as performing animals for circuses. PETA also has argued in the court that center must immediately notify the draft Performing Animals Registration Amendment Rules of 2018, which explicitly prohibited training and exhibition of performing animals in circuses and mobile entertainment facilities. But these rules, which was drafted in 2018, has not been notified by center yet. PETA also has given other arguments apart from the argument of cruelty given out to animals. The argument is that animals carry many zoonotic diseases and circuses poses the risk of a spread of these zoonotic diseases to the audience of circus. There is also an argument of biocentrism where animals are not to be considered as means of entertainment for human beings. PETA also has argued its case by saying that internationally many countries have banned the use of animals in circuses, and that include Bolivia, Bosnia, Greece, Guatemala, Italy, Malta and other countries. Ruling has not come on these arguments. Argument number 1, that these rules that allow the registration of animals as performing animals must be cancelled out because they are in contravention with Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960 and the larger constitutional idea. Argument number 2, the draft Performing Animals Registration Amendment Rules of 2018 must be notified immediately by the center because in the context of COVID-19, the spread of zoonotic diseases becomes very important. And internationally, it has been accepted by many countries that animals must not be used in circuses. Presently, the High Court only has said to give a report on the missing animals that were not found during the inspection. Whether we are ready to take up the rights of animals to that extent that we will be banning the registration of animals as performing animals or not, that only time will tell, and judgment on this is pending. For now, you also have to know for the prelims exam the relevant information regarding Central Zoo Authority and Animal Welfare Board of India. It's very important to know that Central Zoo Authority is a statutory body because it has been formed under the provision of Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Central Zoo Authority worked as an attached body under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. It was formed in 1992. Pay attention to this. Central Zoo Authority is chaired by the Environment Minister. Central Zoo Authority provides recognition to zoos and it does the overall regulation of zoos across the country. It lays down the guidelines and prescribed rules under which animals can be transferred from one zoo to another. It also coordinates programs of planned breeding in zoos, ex situ research in zoos, among other things. It is the Animal Welfare Board of India with which the circuses are registered. Remember this, it is not the Central Zoo Authority. Circuses and even the animal welfare organizations and bodies, they needs to be registered with Animal Welfare Board of India. It is also a statutory body and this has been formed under Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960. It was formed way back in 1962. Initially when it was formed, it used to be under Ministry of Food and Agriculture, but in 1990 it was brought under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Who chairs Animal Welfare Board of India? It is chaired by any senior official from the ministry. Animal Welfare Board of India is largely responsible to frame rules on how animals ought to be humanely treated everywhere, because it has been formed under Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960. It is headquartered at Ballabgarh in Haryana. It is important to know because it was previously headquartered in Chennai. As we have talked about Nagra judgment of 2014, it was Animal Welfare Board of India that filed petition in the Supreme Court to ask for the rights of animals. And in that case, Supreme Court mandated that animals are also entitled to the fundamental right to freedom enshrined in Article 21 of our Constitution. So animals also enjoy right to life, personal liberty, and the right to die with dignity, which imply they are entitled for passive euthanasia, just like human beings in India are entitled to. In India, passive euthanasia is allowed, but not active euthanasia. This is an article from page number 1. What mechanism do you have against fake news? Supreme Court asks government. This news article is in the context of petition filed in the Supreme Court to give direction to the Information and Broadcasting Ministry to take strict action against television media channels which has been broadcasting fake and malicious news concerning the Jamaat-e-Islami incident. Supreme Court asked the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting to submit an affidavit regarding the incident. The ministry submitted the affidavit, but Supreme Court was not impressed. Supreme Court expressed disappointment on the government's affidavit. The ministry said that any incident can be looked from various perspectives and the media will have the freedom to express, broadcast the news the way it feels like. However, the rights of media is drawn from Article 19(1)(a) and Article 21. And there are reasonable restrictions with regard to right to freedom of speech and expression, like incitement to offences, defamation, public order, public morality, and also decency, which is very relevant for the present time in the context of news channels. Supreme Court has asked the government as to what are the mechanism in the hands of government to fight fake news. As far as television news channels are concerned, there are two relevant regulatory mechanisms. One is self-regulatory mechanism, News Broadcasters Association, which is the Association of News Broadcasters. It's a self-regulatory mechanism. Government has no role to play in this. And there is a relevant legislation called as Cable Television Network Regulation Act 1995. And this act applies to the content appearing on cable televisions, meaning the content provided by the cable television network. Supreme Court was interested in asking the government whether the Cable Television Regulation Act 1995 can be applied to all TV broadcast. Because the TV broadcast could be anything. It could be from OTT platform, it could be from direct to home, DTH channels. It may not come from the cable network. So when the content is not coming from the cable network, will this act apply to the content or not? And if it applies, then whether the government has any power to question or to prohibit any TV broadcasting under Section 19 of 1995 Act. So first, Supreme Court wanted to have clarity on this issue, whether there are legislative regulatory framework available. And maybe if the government would reply that these would not apply to all TV broadcast, then Supreme Court might give direction to come up with a new law. Government will have to go back to the Supreme Court stating what regulatory mechanisms are available to fight fake news coming from television news channels. In this regard, for the examination, you have to know certain measures that Government of India has come up with recently. The Bureau of Police Research and Development, which is a think tank under Union Home Ministry, has published guidelines to aid law enforcement agencies to identify fake news and fake videos. Under Section 69A of IT Act 2000, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has the power to block information. Under this act and under the power given to the ministry by information technology, procedures and safeguards for blocking for access of information by public, Rules 2009, has issued advisories categorically informing the intermediaries to remove fake news or misinformation concerning COVID-19, which are likely to create panic among public and disturb the public order or communal harmony in our society. Similarly, Section 54 of Disaster Management Act 2005 relates to preventing false news or fake news. And Union Home Ministry has given advisories to state to use this relevant section of Disaster Management Act to prevent the spread of fake news. Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has recently set up Fact Check Unit in the Press Information Bureau, where you can send requests to verify the correctness of the information. And the Fact Check Unit has got around 8,000 cases, out of which around 7,000 cases have been replied. and rest of the cases have been referred to the states to get the correct reply. But these steps are in general for fake news. They are not specifically for news television channels, which the article is about. Law Commission consultation paper has suggested that there should be an independent regulator for television media. But the larger opinion is that media should be self-regulated. And hence, such an independent regulator has been never formed. But lately it has been seen that the television media channels are going berserk. They have been broadcasting information without any sense of self-accountability. So now the question is raised whether an independent regulatory body should be formed outside self-regulatory mechanism for media with government intervention. That is a question I leave you with to think and answer. We have come to the end of the session. Now let's do question for the day. Answer to yesterday's question would be 1, 3 and 4, option C. Egypt is not part of Horn of Africa. Horn of Africa comprises Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia and Djibouti. Today's question is this. Consider the following countries: Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, Indonesia and Australia. Which of the above are part of both RCEP and the proposed Trans-Pacific Partnership (TPP) that didn't come into force? 1, 3 and 5 only, 1, 2, 3 and 5 only, 1, 2 and 5 only, or all of the above. With this we have come to the end of the session. Do not forget to solve the DNS quiz on our eLearn platform to have a sense of closure for today's learning of current affairs.